Take a look at these images. Pretty spooky, right? Would you have been able to guess what game they're from if you didn't read the title? I for sure wouldn't have, but yes, they're all from Fortnite, a game you're already familiar with, specifically for Save the World, the game mode that started everything before priorities shifted to the way more popular Battle Royale. One of Fortnite's most prominent elements is its cartoony art style, but the images you saw earlier showed that things were supposed to be completely different. I came across these images when I was in a call with 2 other YouTubers, looking for bad Fortnite creepypastas. It was so crazy seeing that these were official Fortnite concepts, and the timing couldn't be any better, as Save the World just became free the other day. Anyways, let's dive into all the terrifying Save the World concept art. In 2014, a short video was released, going over some of Fortnite's early development stages and the concept art we're about to get into. As art director Pete Ellis mentions, Fortnite was originally supposed to have this much scarier over-the-top horror experience, only for the game to shift to the more light-hearted, family-friendly feel we know today. The husks were one of the first things designed, and the goal they had was to make them unique. The original concept for the basic husk was highlighted in the video, as it had its head skin pulled out, almost like a hoodie. I think we can all agree that it's really grotesque looking. Of course, this design was later revised to fit the more cartoony art style, yet the gory element stayed. The skin hood helped preserve the design's uniqueness, and in a way, added a bit of goofiness now that the husk is all cartoonified, if that makes sense. The rest of the video briefly goes over some other zombie designs, before ending on these words. Zombies can be funny too, you gotta take the opportunities for humor when they come up. In a Game Informer video on Fortnite's development history, we know that the developers were fresh out of working on Gears of War and wanted to make a building game, which, if you've played any of the Gears games, this probably makes a lot of sense. Of course, there's the fact that both games are third-person PvE shooters, but also looking at the concept art, the grittiness carried on over. Yet what got in the way of the darker tone was the whole building and destroying aspect, as it would have taken a lot more horsepower if they kept the realistic graphics. Therefore, they settled on really stylizing the game. I think we got enough of the background to understand why these concepts look the way they do, and why they evolved into the cartoony art style, but I want to give some of my own thoughts regarding the concept art. The concept design for the husk is a lot more realistic and intimidating. Its bodily horrors make it much more apparent that you're looking at a rotting human corpse. When it comes to more realistic zombies, you not only get the fear factor, but also the whole thought process of, damn, this used to be an actual person. You may even question if there's anything left of the original person in this undead form. I can imagine that the kill animations for these husks would have been much bloodier. Another original husk concept that can be seen is the husky. The concept art of the husky is sickening to look at. Its proportions are all over the place, with its stout stomach being the most prominent feature. As I looked at it, I asked myself, is he fat because he ate a lot of humans? Or was his living self that much of a glutton? The husks aren't the only abominations the storm conjured up, as we also have the mist monsters. Their designs are much more alien, given their purple skin tone and varying body types. Some hold a human-like appearance, while others are difficult to make out. Looking at their earlier concepts, they are fucking horrifying. These creatures lean more towards the humanoid side, but are still incomprehensible. They're almost Lovecraftian. The rigid textures of their skin and the uncanny look on their faces provide all kinds of dread. I think these designs fit in way more with a game like Nier or Metro Exodus. One in particular has some art by itself and is much more striking than the others, as his features are more apparent. I would not want to be caught by him. Now for the concept art showing off the environment. I think we can all agree that Fortnite has a certain atmosphere to it. The abundant variety of towns combined with the nature, sounds, lighting, and the supernatural elements, like the storm, all contribute to that. Not to mention, the game gets quite liminal. Save the World takes place after most of the population was taken by the storm, and Battle Royale only has 100 people spread out on an island that could hold thousands. Places that should be filled with life just lack that. Some may even consider the game eerie at times because of these haunting aspects. Going to the concept art, the atmosphere would have kicked things up a notch, making everything more grim and jarring. Those buildings are all run down, barely holding together. Rather than the vibrant scenery we're used to, trees have been stripped down and the skies have become dull. I'm guessing that these wooden bridges are supposed to be built by the player, provided that they look susceptible to collapsing. There are traps all over with visible blood on them, adding to my theory earlier about how deaths would have been much more graphic. Looking at some other setting concept art, you can tell the visual inspirations come from all over. This one has your standard urban wasteland structure, while this other one has that post-Soviet feel. I could imagine the interior having things like shattered glass, rubble, worn out paint, and maybe even some graffiti. Hey, My editor Valentine here. After I finished recording most of this video, I stumbled across this video from GDC 2018 with Peter Ellis as the spokesperson. Here we get some art I missed out on, as well as some more insight on the original concept. I probably played some clips of it as B-roll earlier, but I feel it'd also be a good idea to point out some notable pieces of information from it. The original Save the World would be described as The Walking Dead meets Minecraft, as well as being claustrophobic and really intense. A mood board was made in order to really bring out the vision for this game. Everything is completely covered in that monochromatic fog. The whole reason behind the design of the mist monsters and the husks was due to the fact that it was the 2010s, and zombie games are already commonplace, so they needed to really differentiate themselves. Also, that mist monster with arms on its back is freaking me the fuck out. We also get the very first screenshot of Fortnite ever, and wow, that looks dreary. I don't want to know what that monster looks like when it's out of the fog. As for the last thing I want to bring up regarding this session, the destruction of the buildings was going to be a lot more realistic and immersive, and once you take a look at the images provided, you start to understand why they went with the stylized look.
We'll be back with more Fortnite horror.
Imagining how the game would look and play is pretty easy given the concept art and what the developers have said, but in terms of how successful it would be, it's hard to say. People are suckers towards both PvE zombie games and survival sandboxes, so there would have been an audience for this version of Save the World. Yet it's also possible that the game would have been a total flop. One thing is for sure, the game would lack the success of the Fortnite we know and love. Save the World in itself already has a lot of charm, but ever since Battle Royale released, the game has only been exploding in popularity, and the cartoony art style is one of the biggest contributors to that. For one, it helped itself stand out among competitors like PUBG and H1Z1, and many of the game's visual elements have become staples of pop culture. Ask anyone of any background, and most of them will probably recognize who Jonesy is, what a shield potion is, and that this is the map. The game's success has gone on for so long that people even get nostalgic when they revisit Fortnite's early days. And it goes without saying that the crazy events and crossovers wouldn't have been able to work if the game had kept its realism. Hell, it's not like this alternate universe Fortnite would have been big enough to achieve either. All in all, imagining Fortnite without its cartoony art style would be like imagining Minecraft not being blocky. Okay, so I never actually cared for Save the World up until recently, when it became free. It always just seemed like an afterthought. Even with Battle Royale, I only ever play it once in a blue moon, and it's really just a phase of me playing no build for a week. If I wanted to play a co-op zombie game, I'd rather just hop on Black Ops 2 or Left 4 Dead. Now that it's free, I decided to give it a try, and all I can say is, yeah, it's pretty fun.
What's the game called? It's called Fortnite. It's free. We'll be back with more Fortnite horror.
It's been made pretty obvious that Fortnite has taken a far cry from its horror roots. Nothing about the game is remotely scary besides a few small details, but that hasn't stopped fans from making their own Fortnite horror experiences. Like most games, Fortnite has creepypastas, and with creepypastas comes creepypasta readings. There's a bunch all over the internet that vary in quality, but one in particular is a complete gem. On September 28th of 2018, YouTuber Too Spooky For You uploaded 5 real Fortnite horror stories. I'll just play out some clips for you.
The map was laid out the same, but sections were named differently and were more sinister aesthetically. I was rather shocked by some of the names. Instead of Risky Reels, it was called Rape Thrills. He said the skin was called a breast. He said he looked like a zombie with a ripped bloody smock on it. The pickaxe was a huge rusty bloody scalpel with chunks of gore dripping off of it, and his back bling was an aborted fetus. He said his favorite emote was his skin masturbating until climax completion with a jack. He starts saying,
"How does this look, Mike? Is this what you're envisioning? Will this make you look OG?"
The stories themselves have that blend of being poorly written and being out of pocket. To top it all off, the narrator tries so hard to keep everything serious, yet he still stops himself from laughing a couple of times. There are also Fortnite analog horror attempts, and yeah, they're what you'd expect. I've never played any of these, but sometimes I'll catch a few clips of horror creative maps, and from the looks of them, they're pretty nutty. Although I should mention, Fortnite does have the same copy-paste slop problem that Roblox has. Nevertheless, you should be able to find a few gems, and even if they're not the scariest, I'm sure they're fun time wasters. Usually I have video ideas in the back of my mind for weeks or even months. But when I found these concept images, I knew I had to talk about them, and that was only a few days before writing. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment down any thoughts or topics I should cover, and subscribe if you want to see more. Also check out my other channel, just titled Casey Valentine. Take care of yourselves, and of course as usual, please have yourselves a damn good one.
Okay, this might not be the best idea, but here we go. Did you know that Oli Ravioli and My Casey Valentine share each other's kidney? Wait, I said that wrong. Hold on. Did you know that My Casey Valentine and Oli Ravioli are the bestest friends? So much so that they share each other's kidneys? That's horrible. We'll be back with more Fortnite horror. There.